Welcome to this tutorial on financial modeling using Kaluta projection methodology. Last time we ended up using business valuation using levered free cash flow. Now let us go to do valuation on monthly basis. So we will go to our monthly cash flow sheet. Here is where we will do our business valuation now. So just let me copy the same structure we had in annual cash flow here to establish business valuation. So I select this area up to unlevered free cash flow here, and then I copy this and then come to my monthly sheet here and then paste it here. Okay, so we start with cash flow. So in this case I double tap to put the formula here, start with equal sign, and the cash flow, total cash flow from operations in January, this figure, press enter. Interest, I start with equal sign and then negative to turn it to back to positive. We add it back. So interest, loan interest here, press enter. We add back accounting tax, so start with equal sign, then negative, then pick the accounting tax, which is in the cash flow. And then theoretical tax, now we have to compute this as we did in the yearly basis. So we are going to our monthly, in this case is monthly, so in the monthly balance sheet we need to establish earning before interest and tax, which is, start with profit before tax, which is this figure, profit before tax. Yeah, we can take this one, net profit before tax, this one, press enter, and then we put interest component here. We add back interest to come to our figure of earning before interest and tax. So it is this one, loan interest here, press enter. So this is our earning before interest and tax figure, which is the summation of those two. And then let's establish a first cumulative figure of this. Cumulative figure, in this case it's just going to be this one because we've just started, and we can copy this formula here, select to fill to the next month here, and then cumulative figure here will be the previous cumulative plus current earning before tax. So that is cumulative, and I can now select this and then fill this throughout our projection period of 3 years up to the end of year 3, okay, which is here, should be here. Okay, now let us see our theoretical tax now. Our after adding back interest component. So the same principle, we are going to start charging tax after we have exhausted all cumulative losses, and in this case we see cumulative figure negative ends here in January. From February it is positive. So from here we will start to charge theoretical tax, okay, because you can't charge tax on loss, okay. So I put a formula here. Take this figure, the remaining figure for this case, and then multiply by 30%, which is the tax rate, to get the tax rate for February. For March here, because we have all profit, so I just start with equal sign, then take profit before tax figure here on top, and then multiply by, let me use this one. So take this and then multiply by 30%. So this one is going to be true throughout. I tap to fill this. Throughout our projection period for theoretical tax up to here, okay. And then we now need our tax payment assumptions. As we said, we pay tax at the end of the calendar quarter. Tax payments at the end of the calendar quarter. So the theoretical tax, if this was the tax that were to go into our financial statement, then it would have gone into these periods at the end of the calendar quarter. So the first calendar quarter is March, and I just put a formula for sum. So that one will cover January, February and March. Press enter. Okay, because this tax payment, let's start with a negative number. So start with negative, press enter. Then I can copy this formula, tap to copy March, the following will be in June, second quarter, here in June, tap to paste, and then in September, tap to paste, then in December, tap to paste, then okay, I can save time by taking from here, select all these that I have already done, and then copy them, and then come to March here, paste, so that I put them in several areas. Okay, so the next one is going to be here. I paste it here. Yeah, so I'm done. Okay, so the timing of the theoretical cash flow is there. This is the one now we are going to put in our monthly cash flow statement here, theoretical tax. So start with equal sign and then go to our monthly cash flow sheet, and January here, tax payments, press enter, theoretical tax for January, cash flow from investing activities. So start with equal sign and pick the figure here, cash flow from investing activities. Okay, cash flow from investing activity, not financing, investing activity. And so our unlevered free cash flow is simply the summation of all those. Press enter. So I just select these and then fill them to the rest of our projection period. Year 3 here. Okay, so we have now our numbers to use for, let me arrange these numbers. Use this format and then remove decimal places and then use number format to be this one. Okay, so we have our unlevered free cash flow. This is the cash flow we are now going to use to do enterprise valuation on monthly basis. So in this case, periods, our periods, in this case period 0 is in January, so there is where we have 0. Period 1 starts in February, because now we are modeling on monthly basis, so this is period 1. So I can just select these two and fill them throughout the end of our projection period to get total number of periods until the end year. Okay, so we have our periods, and the next thing we need is our monthly cost of capital, weighted average cost of capital. Okay, and this one we get this by applying this formula: 1 plus annual WACC, that is 1 plus R, and then close the bracket. Then this one is raised to the power of, open the bracket, 1 divided by n, number of periods in R. Okay, so if R is annual rate, so number of periods for monthly will be 12. Okay, and then I close the bracket, and then I minus 1. Okay, so this is how you convert this is how we will convert our annual WACC to our monthly WACC. So we are coming here and start with equal sign, then 1 plus R. So I open the bracket, 1 plus R. R we find it in the cost of fund sheet, which is weighted average cost of capital here. And then close the bracket, then raised to the power of, so raised to, open the bracket, 1 divided by n, and in this case it is 12. Okay, there are 12 months within a year because we are using a year rate, and the power, we started with 1 divided because what we need is the square root of 1 plus R. So the square root is obtained by take 1 over that number of period. Okay, so that is the formula to minus 1, of course. After that we minus 1, so I press enter. So this is our monthly rate, and to check if it is correct, we simply compound this. So we start with equal sign, then open the bracket, 1 plus this monthly rate, close the bracket, then raise it to the power of n, which is 12 in this case, and then we minus 1. Okay, so let me put this in percentage terms. So it becomes exactly our work rate, annual work rate, as we see them in cost of funds here, this one. Okay, so we can now clear this. We don't need this, we only need this monthly rate. That was just for illustration. And now we establish our discount factor. For cash flows, which is 1 plus R, periodic rate, close the bracket, then raise to power n, the period in question. Okay, so in this case I'll start with equal sign, then open the bracket, 1 plus R is this one, but because I want to use the same R when I drag this formula, so I need to lock this B48 cell which contains the monthly rate. So I start with $, and then click on B, and then $, again, and then click on 48 to lock it. So after locking, 1 plus R, I close the bracket, and then raise it to the period. In this case is 0 here, in 0 period, press enter. So that is the discounting factor, and of course discounting factor for period 0 is 1. Okay, so I tap to fill this throughout our projected period. Here. Okay, so we have the factors here, but we need to establish the terminal value as we did. So in this case, because we are doing on monthly basis, the figure that we will use for establishing terminal value, normally it is supposed to be the end. In this case, March 25 here, this is the unlevered free cash flow at the end of our explicit projection period. But in this case, this figure does not make sense. Why? Because if you look the previous figure, we have this one is 1 million, over 1 million, this is 2 million, this is 1 million, okay, 2 million, 2 million, 1 million. So taking this figure of 386, this figure is an outlier. Okay, so we cannot use it for basing our projected terminal value. And why this figure has happened, that we can see if we look at the cash flow on top here. We see that first there is this tax component that is paid on quarterly basis. So it hit on March. So that's why there is a bigger deduction compared to other. So that is the main reason why this figure is lower compared to other. And okay, so we cannot use this. So how do we solve this? Well, we need to remove the outlier. For example, even this one figure is an outlier. Cash flow is, let us go to here, unlevered free cash flow. This is an outlier, unlevered free cash flow, and the main reason is, if we look here, there is rent payment, annual rent payment has hit on February, so that's why it has turned out to be, so it's an outlier. So what I will do is I will take the average of the figures that are not outliers, okay, to use as a base, as the end figure to use for terminal valuation. So let me here, it will be the terminal value figure. Here I will put computation of the let me put it here. Okay, so I start with equal sign and then type average formula. Okay, so I will take the average from of our unlevered free cash flow. Here is also an outlier period, because we have not yet started generating income, generating revenue. That's why we have negative unlevered free cash flow. We have started to generate revenue in July. Okay, so we cannot take these months unlevered free cash flow figure in these months into our average figure. So the average will start to be picked from here. Okay, and this one we will take up to, so let me drag this to cover up to, let it cover up to so this one is also an outlier. Let us end up here. As I said, this figure is an outlier, so let us end up here and press enter. So this is our average figure that we are going to use for the purpose of computing terminal value. So we said the first assumption was for terminal value was no growth. Okay, we assume there is no growth of our free cash flow, as we did. So no growth, and this is actually the one we use for computation of our terminal value. So in this case, you simply take equals sign, pick this figure, and then divide it by cost of capital. And in this case, our monthly work is this one. Okay, so let me copy this format here to apply here. So that is our figure for our with no growth. With Gordon growth model, okay, where we say it is UFCF, our unlevered free cash flow, and then we multiply it by, open the bracket, 1 plus 1 plus growth rate G, then close the bracket, then okay, so I need another, this one, then we divide it by, open the bracket, cost of capital R minus the growth rate, close the bracket. So that's the Gordon growth model. So in our assumption, we said when we did the annual valuation, we said the growth rate for our case is 5%. That is an inflation rate, okay? So that's what we used. Now that was an annual growth rate. Inflation rate is annual. So we need to convert this annual rate into monthly rate. So I can put the monthly growth rate, so let me call it monthly growth rate. So the same formula we use to convert our annual work into monthly work is the one we are going to use here. So I start with equal sign, open the bracket, 1 plus 5%, that is our growth rate, annual growth rate, close the bracket, raise it to the power of, open the bracket, 1 divided by 12, close the bracket, and then minus 1. Press enter. Okay, so this is our effective monthly growth rate. Let me put it in percentage terms. Okay, so basing on this, now we take, for terminal value using Gordon growth model, we take this base for valuation, we computed average figure, and then we multiply it by, open the bracket, 1 plus growth rate, and in this case is our work monthly work, because we are dealing with monthly figures here. So this is our growth rate, and then close the bracket, then raise to power of, open the bracket, 1 divided by 12, okay, 1 divided by 12. What am I doing? Let me see what, oh, sorry, I'm doing something else here. Let me repeat. So we take, start with equal sign, we take this figure, base figure, and then we multiply it by 1 plus growth rate. So multiply by, open the bracket, 1 plus growth rate, the growth rate is this one, our monthly growth rate, okay, and then close the bracket, and then divide by R. So our R here is this one, monthly rate. So first let me open the bracket, take this rate, and then minus growth rate, which is this one. And then close the bracket, press enter. Okay, so we have established our terminal value using Gordon growth model. For using exit multiples, normally the established practice is using the annual figure for unlevered free cash flow, okay, or any free cash flow that you want to use exit multiple. So we cannot base on our monthly figures here. Because you have monthly projections, you can just sum them. For example, if the exit multiple uses earning before interest, tax and depreciation allowance, as we did in our annual computation, then you simply get your earning before interest, tax and depreciation allowance on annual, and then if the multiple is 10 as we did in annual, then you multiply it by 10. That becomes your exit multiple. So what I can say, the same exit multiple we used for computation of annual, we can use it here. But definitely we said we ended up picking the one which is the lowest, and in this case it is this one with no growth assumption, so that to be conservative in our estimate. Okay, so we pick that as our terminal value. So here we say we don't need this first one that shows here, so I delete that row. Okay, I am in the cash flow. Okay, let me leave not do it. Just note that here is period T. Okay, so let's call this period terminal, and we have our terminal value here. So this one should appear on the last period was 38, so this one is going to be 39 for terminal value. And for discount factor, I can just drag this, so tap to fill this to establish the rate for terminal value, discount factor. Okay, so after that, then we can do our present value computation. So PV is simply start with equal sign unlevered free cash flow figure divide by discounting factor here. Press enter. Let me copy this format here, and then tap to fill this at the end of the projection period. Which is here, period T. Okay, and NPV is simply the summation, of, so we sum from here, sum of the PVs is the NPV. This is the manual way of doing it, which is up to here. Enter. And for using formula, we can put a formula here, but start with equal sign, go to NPV, click that one. We are required to put the rate, so I click on the rate, which is this one. Okay, and then values, I click on the values in the formula. The values now you start to take from period 1, not 0, okay, as I said earlier. So we take from here unlevered free cash flow from period 1 up to the end of projection period. Which is year 3, period T, up to here. Okay, so after that you come to plus the initial outlay. So I plus initial outlay figure, which has not been included in NPV because NPV is for future cash flow starting from period 1. So we plus this figure here, press enter. Okay, so the manual and the formula are exactly the same. Other valuation metrics, let me just go to annual sheet and here and copy them, what we did to make our valuations. Yeah, after NPV there is XNPV, IRR, payback periods. Okay, so up to here, copy this, go to my monthly sheet, here, tap to paste them here, and maybe before PI let me insert here, insert row, and there is that modified internal rate of return. Okay, so to compute X and PV, as I said, this formula uses exact dates on which the cash flow occurs, and this formula is applicable for irregular cash flow timings. Okay, so we need to put the dates here. Here is the dates, the way they are arranged is they start from the beginning of the month. So because I just typed Jan 22, Feb 22, so it takes the start of the month. But for the timing of the cash flow, we have assumed, and this is true for this case, that our projected cash flow is evenly distributed throughout the month. Okay, so if we want to take a timing of the cash flow, it should be the midpoint between the month, and that is on 15th. So on 15th of each month, we assume that is the timing for our cash flows to hit during the month. Okay, so for January, I just, instead of 1 here, I adjust it to be 15. The same here in February, I adjust it instead of 1, it becomes 15th. Okay, and this is American style. Remember, the date should be American style so that the XIRR, this formula uses X's, can recognize them. So after doing these two, I can just select these two and then fill them throughout our projection period so that we have the midpoints as our exact timing of the cash flow. So after doing that, we then can apply these other, and I'm not going to do the manual here because I have already explained how to do them in annual computation. So go and read the previous the previous tutorials if you want to learn more about them. So XNPV, we start with equal sign, right? XNPV, XNPV, that one I pick. So I'm supposed to keep the rate, and our rate is this monthly rate. I pick this and then click on values in the formula, and then select the values, that is unlevered free cash flow from period 0 here up to the end of our projection period, including the terminal value, of course. Terminal value, which is here. Year T. This I wrote period T. I don't see it. Why? Growth. Okay, so this one should be the end. All right. Let me. Okay, so that is XNPV, and there is a range for debts. For debts, starting from January here up to the end of our projection period. Year 3, and then year T. Year 3, and then year T. Yeah. Press enter. Okay, let me see what happened, because I remember I typed period T, but I didn't see it when I was dragging my form. I was capturing my. It's not there either. So in which sheet? Yes, I'm in the cash flow sheet, monthly cash flow sheet. Where did I, let me see where I did my computation for terminal value. The terminal value, business valuation, terminal value is here. Okay. Okay. Let me insert some rows here. Insert columns. Insert column to separate, to know where do I end with my timing. Let me repeat it again. Insert column. Let me repeat it again. Insert column. Okay, so at least I know this is where I end. Let me see my formula again, if it has captured rightly. So XNPV, I said the rate, which is this one, and then unlevered free cash flow, it has been picked up to year T, unlevered free cash flow, year T, which also covered the terminal value, and then this one, the timing, dates up to there. Okay, right. Okay, so this is okay. Let me arrange this, format this also using that one. So that is our XNPV. IRR, simply start with equal sign, type IRR, this one, values. So we pick our unlevered free cash flow from the beginning to end of our projection period. Here. Okay. So that is our range. Press enter. Let me arrange this in terms of percentage. So that is our monthly IRR. XIRR, start with equal sign, XIRR, this one I pick. So we start with values and we pick our unlevered free cash flow from the beginning to the end of our projection period. Here, those are value. I click on the dates section and start from the beginning. Dates from there, January up to the end of our projection period. Here, press enter. So that is our XIRR. Let me put in this format. I copy this format. Yeah. Okay. IRR, this one is a monthly rate, and XIRR formula gives you the annual effective rate. Okay, so you should note that's why there are a huge difference between IRR and XIRR. Of course, we can reconcile by saying let us this monthly rate we change it to annual rate. So I put the formula there, starting with equal sign, open the bracket, 1 plus this monthly rate, close the bracket, and then raise it to 12 periods within a year, and then minus 1. So I compound it. So you see they are almost the same, but of course XIRR is a bit greater than IRR, because IRR assumes that the cash flows occur at the end of the period. In this case, okay, monthly periods. While the XIRR here have used mid date within the month, according to how we modeled it, mid date within the month. So the cash flow using IRR are far away compared to the cash flow using XIRR. That's why when you discount using XIRR, the value becomes bigger compared to IRR. Okay. Then the modified rate, start with equal sign and use MIRR, this one. So values, Again, we take our unlevered free cash flow from year 0 up to the end of our projection period. Here, and then finance rate. Okay, we get it in the cost of fund, so I click on the cost of fund sheet, which is this one, debt rate, effective debt rate after tax cost, that is 14. And then after that, we are now required to give reinvest rate. I click on this reinvest rate, which is the WACC. I can also take WACC. Okay, so WACC, so this one. Okay, on this formula they use discounting for 365 days, so you need to use annual rates. Okay, so press enter. This enter, so we get our MIRR and Profitability Index. Profitability Index we are going to take, so start with equal sign. We are going to sum all positive cash flow. I type sum, open the bracket, and then present value positive cash flow, start from here July. So I pick this one, and then I select all the positive cash flows. This one is not positive, so it ends in January here. I put comma, and I come to pick here from March, it's positive. I pick all these positive figures up to here. This is negative. I put comma and pick this positive figure here. Let's see where it goes. So there are others, so I drag to take all these positive figures. These are negative, so it ends here, and I put comma. I pick the positive figure again, which is this one and this one. Okay, so those are the positive one. I close the bracket, and then I divide them by the negative, but I want the negative figures to be positive, so I start with negative number, and then I come to sum all negative PVs. So sum, open the bracket, again I start from the beginning, this one, from here I drag all these negative numbers up to here, put a comma, go and pick, this is negative also, sorry, this one, then comma, then the other negative is here. Do we have other figures? Negative? Yes, so I put comma first and then pick these other negative figures, this one and this one. Okay, So I close the bracket, press enter. Okay, so that is our profitability index. And as we said, when this number is greater than 1, then it is profitable. Okay, and payback period. Now let me copy the structure of computing payback period here in annual cash flow statement here. And we have we computed our payback period here. Let me take up to here. So I copy this and then come to my monthly sheet here and then paste them here. Okay, so here we have, instead of year, I type period because we are using monthly, and here I just equal sign and pick the period, which is here, press enter. PV, I also put the formula there, start with equal sign. Our PV is this one, press enter, and cumulative is that one. So these formulas are okay. So what I can do now is simply this one, PV, I have already put a formula here. Let me fill this here also for PV. So the rest are okay. So I select them, I select these and fill them throughout our projected period. Here, up to here. Oh, sorry. Okay, now there is the formula that I established here that computes the payback period, and if we look at our numbers here, we will see that also the formula. Let me drag this formula, copy this and make sure it applies to all these other cells up to here. Okay, here, and then paste. Okay, after that, let me see now. Okay, so let me first drag this, fill this for periods. Up to the end of our projection periods. Yeah, for periods. So after doing that, now we can check. So our cumulative keeps on being negative until it reaches on month 22 here, then it turns out to be positive. So our payback period in this case is after 22 months here, plus this portion out of this figure. Okay, so that's a linear interpolation. Okay, so this is our payback period, but because we have negative figures here again, then this formula keeps on computing, because the way it is structured, this formula, is that when you have a negative figure here and a positive figure here, then the payback period will be in this following positive, in the following figure. You take this 22 period plus you interpolate this to get the fraction of the year to add on 22. So this is what the formula says. Now because we have negative figures also here, so they come and compute again. So the best thing we can do in our case is to take this first one. Why? Because this substantially, the initial outlays of this business modeling appears at the beginning, okay? Because we inject capital and then we need some period before we started to generate revenue. So that is the period when there are negative present value. So after the negative present value have been absorbed, then we start to have positive value. So the first point when we started to have positive value is here. So this logically, this is plausible number to take as our payback period, okay, for that matter. Ignore these others, okay, because they don't make good sense compared to what I have said. So our payback period now to be put here. Here there was a formula to sum, but because we have many payback period computation, we simply put equal sign and then pick the first one, the first computed one as our payback period manually, okay? This one. And this one is in terms of months because we are doing, our periods are monthly, okay? So 22 months, if we put them in years, equal to, take these months, divide by 12 to get equivalent in years. So it's about 1.8 years. And if we look at our annual cash flow figure and see what was our payback period, it was 2.3 years, okay? So the monthly payback period is heavier than this yearly period, and this could be definitely, the main reason is the timing of the cash flow during the monthly period is different from the year end. So that's why we have good rate payback period on monthly compared to this annual period, okay? So that is how we do in modeling our valuation on monthly basis. And for more explanation about these variables, let us go back here and monthly. All these variable, profitability index, payback period, okay? You will get this in the previous presentations. So thanks guys for listening. Please subscribe to my channel, and if you have any question, ask. If a video or a tutorial you have find it to be nice, give me a like so that the YouTube algorithm can push this content so that others can also be aware of what I am tutoring. Thanks guys, bye for now.